Welcome to the third part of our series on how to set up print files for direct-to-garment printing properly. This series will be also helpful to you if you are designing for print-on-demand services. Most of them use DTG printing to create their t-shirts and other textile products. We already recorded 2 videos in this series. If you want to watch them, I will link to the playlist in the description below. In today's video, we are going to talk about design elements, which ones you can use and which ones you should avoid. If you do not own a printer, print quality is out of your control, especially if you use a print-on-demand service for your business. But with smart design, you can avoid some of the most common printing mistakes, make your products look much better, and avoid returns. So, let's take a look at how design affects print quality. Hi everyone, Everson here from DTG Merch, where we talk about everything you need to know to run a successful t-shirt business. We normally post tutorials and other helpful content about print-on-demand, t-shirt design, and direct-to-garment printing. If you enjoy our videos, please leave a like and subscribe. And as always, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. First, let's talk about the design elements you can add to your design. You should always check the image quality of your elements before embedding them in your file. The design elements should be of high quality, in the right size, and in a high resolution. For example, you may want to embed a 10 by 10 inch image element in your design. If you want to print this in 300 dpi, the image size needs to be around 3000 by 3000 pixels. If you want to know more about this, we talked a lot about image size and resolution in the first video of our series. I will link it in the description below. So, make sure you include high quality graphics or photos. It is important to check this before you add it to your design. If you were to embed this 10 by 10 inch image and enlarge it to 20 by 20 inch, you would blow it up and reduce the image quality. If your design is not the quality you need at the size you want, you will get a blurry print. And in the worst case, you will see artifacts and other unwanted effects. Another tip is not just to slap square photos and images on your t-shirt. That does not look very nice. You have several options to make your design look better. For example, you can use a frame around it, or you can use distressed edges and masks, or you can remove the background. Another thing to keep in mind is the placement of your design. Make sure you place it correctly on the canvas. If it's too low, you will have a belly print that will not look very sexy. Sometimes it's also better to not use all the space you have. Let me show what I mean by this. This design was printed using the full width available. As you can see, it's a little too big. My armpits are covering parts of the design. It does not look very nice. With most print-on-demand servers, you should not use the full available width. Make your design a little smaller, like this. Next, let's talk about colors and transparencies. If you are unsure where you should design in RGB or CMYK, check out the video we posted last week. And to make a long story short, we recommend designing in RGB. Check out our second part of this series if you want to know why. It is important that you design in RGB and that you choose the right colors for your design. No printer in the world will be able to reproduce neon colors and very bright colors. Please do not use these in your design. Some other colors like very vibrant blues, reds, purples, and greens can also be problematic. The printer will always match them to the closest possible color. However, there will be visible color changes. Another tip we can give to you is to avoid large blocks of solid colors. If there are printing errors, a large, evenly colored area will give them away first. This is not as big of a problem if you are printing the design on a white t-shirt, but be on your guard as soon as you use a white background. This is the case when you print your design on black or colored t-shirts. If the printer is in pristine condition, the print may come out fine and the solid colored areas may look fine. But chances are you will see some imperfections during production. You will usually get better printing results if you either use a lot of colors in your design or if you use white ink only on dark garments. We often create designs using only white ink and we do not color them. I know many people will not be happy about these comments, but we feel that there are fewer returns with them. Because aside from seeing imperfections in the color layer, there is another problem. If your design requires a layer of color on the white background, offset issues can become apparent. We regularly order test t-shirts from various print-on-demand platforms, and unfortunately, there is rarely a t-shirt that does not have some kind of flaw. Most of the time, these are registration issues. That is, if the white and colored layers do not line up correctly, it is immediately noticeable. When the layers do not overlap properly, you will see white lines next to your design. But we will talk more about that a little later in this video. Next, let's talk about gradients and transparency. A gradient is a continuous progression from one color to another. You can use it for your designs for direct-to-garment printing. You will not have any problems as long as your gradient runs from one solid color to another. However, if you have a gradient that has some degree of transparency, you need to be careful. In this case, the underbase will often cause problems, and you will see an ugly gray cast on your t-shirt. Let's take a look at this example that we ordered. Take a look at the white gradient. As you can see, the gradient is not very even. It's almost pure white from about 100% to 80% opacity. Then there is a little gradient from 80% to 40%. And from 40% to 0%, it's almost the same color again. If you compare this to the original file, you will notice a significant difference. The original version is much smoother. If you have a DTG printer and you print your gradients this way, try profiling. But that is the same way the underbase will look like when printed. If you print the colors on top, you would see some imperfections. Plus, you will get another undesirable effect. Take a look at this blue gradient. The blue disappears. The gradient effectively goes from blue to gray to transparent. This creates the gray cast that we talked about earlier. As a rule of thumb, try to avoid gradients that became transparent and avoid image elements with opacity if they are the only visible image element at that point. Do not make any part of your image elements transparent. The gray cast will be visible. The same applies to drop shadows, by the way. There is one exception. If you would use transparent elements on a background, that is fine. For example, add a semi-transparent font on an image. Once you render the image, there is no transparency anymore. The elements blend into the background. However, if the transparent image element is the only thing that will be printed, be careful. But do not despair. You can still create something that looks like transparency in your design. Take a look at this design. See how the background blends in with the black t-shirt? Only this is not a gradient. We already shot a tutorial that shows how you can create a background like this. And I will link the video in the description below. How small is too small? Generally speaking, nothing is too small when it comes to direct-to-garment printing. Resolutions are incredibly high theoretically, lots of tiny elements are printable, but you can quickly see imperfections in production. So, in reality, I would recommend going a little bigger, especially if it's an essential element. If we use thin design elements such as thin lines and small fonts and want to print them on a black or colored t-shirt, we usually only use white ink. If you use color on top of that, any registration issues will show up right away. If you use larger fonts or thick lines, they will not be as obvious. However, if the item is tiny, it will be extremely obvious even to an untrained eye. Personally, if I would create an image element that need to be visible, I would not go below to 10 points for fonts or 1 point for lines. If the image element is not that important and you do not mind part of it disappearing, you can choose smaller values, for example for shading. It's hard to give a concrete number here though. The quality will depend on your printer and the print-on-demand service you use. Print-on-demand platforms often produce large quantities and they usually do not care too much about quality. The quality also depends on the printer they use. They all have different resolutions and drop sizes, and it depends on the garment they are using. So, as you can see, there are too many variables. In the next episode, we're gonna talk about what you can do to get your colors more correct. If you found this video helpful, please leave your like and subscribe to our channel. And if you want to check out all the other videos in this series, I will link the playlist here. Okay, that's it for now. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video.